everybody. Welcome to Perfectly Palm Beach. This is the place for great conversation with innovative, creative, and super busy people in Palm Beach, and sometimes even a few that are a little controversial. And through the month of October, I have been so happy to have my good buddy, Guy Clark, who was my co-host. And
hi, Janie.
Hi, Guy. I'm thrilled to have you here.
I'm always thrilled to be with you.
Thank you, honey. I'm so happy to have you here. And for those of you who surprisingly don't know him, any of you that don't know him, I would be shocked, but he is a great real estate expert, interior designer, and was one of the top reality rock stars in Sweden.
Yes, very strange, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's such a great story.
It's good to have it's good to have facets to your life, right? I don't want to be bored.
No, I don't want to be bored either, which is why we're such good friends. We never bore each other.
That's right.
But also, that is just an amazing story of how that happened in Sweden.
It continues till today.
But tell everybody really quickly how that all worked, Guy, because it was a great way for you to kind of expand your family.
Yeah, it was basically a show in Sweden about Americans finding their roots and finding their families, and I found mine. And there's zillions of them. We basically own an entire town called Torekov in the southern section of Sweden. And now I have all these relatives. There's like hundreds of us.
We need to plan a trip.
Anytime.
I would love to do that. You know what I'm curious about is, how did you end up here? How did you end up in Palm Beach?
Yeah, that's a good story. Interesting. My whole life, we wintered in Vero Beach. And for 3 generations, we were wintering there. And then I met my current husband, and he didn't understand Vero Beach. There was it's
quiet.
Well, it's not only
it's beautiful, but it's quiet.
Yeah, we had like 2 black ties a year, where here we have one every day, basically. And he basically said, we need to get where our tribe is. So we moved here we knew one person, actually a couple, and we moved here knowing just them. We lived in their guest house while we looked for a place to live.
But Vero is just about an hour north of us.
Right.
So you didn't come down to Palm Beach ever while you were up there?
Very, very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because Vero people don't they don't come to Palm Beach. It's not
it's a long drive.
Well, it's an hour.
And it's too far to come for dinner. And,
right.
Yeah.
So we kept our place on the ocean up there for 2 years while we lived here. Actually 3 years. I think it was 3 years. So just recently we gave it up, and now we're just Palm Beachers.
Well, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're so glad you're
here.
here. So do you want to introduce our guest today?
Yes, our next guest is the very famous artist, Camilla Webster, who is one of my dearest friends. And come on in, Camilla.
Come on in, Camilla.
Hi.
Here she is. Yes.
Yay.
Such an accomplished, amazing person. Camilla, I know the very first time that I met you, and then we sat down and had lunch, and I really got the whole gist of your professional background. I was completely in awe. So I want you to share with everybody how you went from, radio, television, killer journalist to being an artist, because it is a fascinating journey. Right, Guy?
Yeah. In fact, a war correspondent.
A war correspondent.
That is what really kills me. How do you go from being a war correspondent to an artist? That's like
incredible.
Night and day.
It is.
They're so far apart. Camilla, how is it?
Tell us, Camilla.
What I really want to know is how those experiences brought you to where you are now.
Well, first of all, thank you both so much for having me.
Oh.
I'm almost stumbling over my words because you've both become such good friends. You've made Palm Beach magical for me. As you know, I arrived in Palm Beach 3 years ago with the belief that there is a great contemporary art culture to be had and to be born in Palm Beach and in Palm Beach County. And
correct.
That is happening. So it's incredibly
and you
exciting.
were a part of it.
And I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I will answer your question in a hot minute, but when I saw Palm Beach, I felt what New York City felt like in the late 70s and early 1980s when I was a kid, and looking downtown at the Village and Tribeca and Chelsea, and I saw South Dixie Highway, and I was like, that's my location because
that's my Chelsea.
And there
my
you are now.
Chelsea. Yes.
And now your studio is there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because obviously you were a kid. You couldn't really take part in the really cool art scene in the 60s, right?
No,
I mean,
but
yes.
I did live across the street from Andy Warhol, and we both used to go to Gristedes together, and I would watch him actually kneeling down. And when at that time at Gristedes, it was Campbell's Soup or Progresso or nothing.
Gristedes is the big supermarket, guys.
Thank you.
Right. Or was the
It
big
was.
supermarket.
Yeah.
So I wish that I had understood the points of all this, because we would look at each other walking. It's not like we were friends. I was 11. And but I
Yeah,
was,
good thing you do not want him.
I was out dancing with him, but you were having Campbell soup with him.
That is too funny.
and so like my mother would send me to the meat counter to get dinner, and the soup was directly behind us, and he would be staring at the Campbell soup cans and really staring. And I was so fascinated, and I thought, well, this is,
Who was this crazy man?
Well, I did know
With a bad
You
wig.
didn't know who he was, really.
I knew who he was, but it was a time in New York when it was very normal to walk down the street and, Andy Warhol was looking at soup cans, and John Lennon's son, Sean Lennon, might be around the corner.
Right.
And we were very respectful. It was just,
absolutely.
Unlike
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it
And
was
he was iconic very early on because he ran
Yes.
Interview magazine,
Right.
and he
Yes.
had those huge magazines under his arm, walking up and down Madison Avenue all the time.
Yes. And you just felt so lucky to be in this vibrant and exciting place.
To be in the same orbit.
And to be
actually,
in the
yes.
same orbit, and actually you could hold conversations at the checkout, and then watch them on the global scene. And I actually think this is happening in Palm Beach. I think we're going to see
So
in the next
exciting. I love that
5-10
vision.
years that we've seen.
But don't you think we're basically a microcosm of the best of New York?
We are. Yes.
That's how I feel Palm Beach is now.
I think
we
we
have
are.
all the best restaurants from New York. We have probably the best group of people that have moved here.
Yes.
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 Thank you. No, but I really feel it's a microcosm. I lived in New York
Yes.
for 27 years or 28 years. And I really feel like all the best elements have come here. And
Yeah.
it's
I
been
agree.
drawn here by who's already here.
Yes.
It's drawing more people and the better people and
Totally
the better
agree.
restaurants and
100%,
hotels and all that.
100%. But we need to find
Yes.
out how you got
Yes.
from the War Correspondent.
Yes.
And
That's what I want to
crazy
know. I ask her
background.
this all the time. I never get a good answer.
Okay.
Give me the good answer,
Here's
Camilla.
the straight answer. I'm going to give you the why and the what,
Okay.
but I'm going to do it really.
And it's on tape.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm going to do it as short as possible.
Okay.
So I started my career at 60 Minutes. I was working with, incredible journalists like Mike Wallace and his producer, George Cryle, and the executive producer, Don Hewitt. And I thought I might be a journalist forever. I was also already always a passionate artist. I was always drawing at home while being absolutely obsessed with my work. So I then went to Fox. And at that time, I was actually in an agreement with CBS, and I was supporting a number of networks through the Fox-owned stations.
Mhm.
That's a lot of jargon to say we were sharing video and stories. And I was still learning my craft, but my actual dream was to be a correspondent. So during Fox is when the War on Terror began. And I was then head of special events in this share. And so the war became the special event. And
Because they had to have everybody on it.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So
All hands on deck.
All full, yes.
So I had goals as a journalist. I was told by the 60 Minutes crew and CBS Evening News, you need to do a political year, you need to do a war. There are a certain number of things that you need to do if you want to become a top journalist. So I'd done
I'm assuming fashion wasn't part of it. I mean, I missed the memo because I ended up like in fashion. I was like, this is what I wanted to do. Incredible. Yeah.
Well, I will say that entertainment was part. So,
Yes.
I had fun.
I'm teasing.
No,
I'm
no, no.
teasing.
I know. Fashion is important. Fashion is culture. But
War is culture too.
But war is
Yes,
culture.
That's right.
But
Sad, but true.
It's
Yeah.
so true. I mean, but I interviewed a lot of Hollywood stars on my way to Angelina Jolie and others along the way. So there was a lot of fun. It wasn't all, I went to
Right.
Super Bowl 36, and as part of my job as a producer, I had to ride the Champions bus with Tom Brady and his whole team. So it was the front lines of history in anything that News Corps was invested in.
That's
Right.
amazing.
In all
So-
categories.
In all categories.
But which war are we talking about here?
We're talking about the war that began in 2003. And I had some experience with War Correspondents. My mother was an incredible and one of the first women editors at Time and Life. So my house as a child was filled with people arriving back from the Vietnam War.
Amazing.
And photographers like Gordon Parks. And so my house was filled with people who became legends. They were just people who stared at a 5-year-old wondering why she was still up at 11, listening to everything, at the time.
Right. Love that.
So I knew how important the coverage of the war was. And
So how did they get you there? I mean, how, literally.
Well, so I was at the Daytona 500 in flip-flops, and I had just been, there's like hot pits and cool pits, and I had just left the hot pits, tried to cool down, then went to the beach, and I got a call saying the stations want to go to Iraq. The war's heating up. You need to get to Kuwait like tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
So I hopped on a plane.
In your flip-flops.
In flip-flops.
And I was like,
Newly tan.
and I was super tan, looking fabulous. And so they said, okay, we've got you an appointment at the Kuwaiti embassy today. So I switch into my fabulous suit, red cape, high heels, and I dress myself up to the nines because they said it's highly unlikely that you're going to get this pass that you need to get into the country. And I was like, love a challenge. Here we go.
Yeah.
So I go in there. I'm terribly charming. I still have quite an English accent. As you know, I'm also half English.
Yes.
It comes and goes.
It comes and goes.
The more cocktails you have, the more I hear it.
And the more English people I'm around,
That's
it
right.
switches.
That's right.
So the gentleman greeting me, was British. And I was being
So
very...
you put on your best British accent.
very ladylike and fabulous.
Hello.
And they showed me into a room. And it was a lovely room, definitely not purpose-built for journalists. And a butler came and served me tea and asked Madame what she would like. And I thought, I think they think I'm someone else. Well, they did. They actually thought I was an American member of the royal family.
Oh, man.
And you said, yes, I am.
And they said, sorry, ma'am, we were expecting, another guest. And I said, I thought so. But could I please have my pass? And yes, so I got one. And I was able to leave in 3 days. So I prepared. I had a captain in the U.S. Army interning for me, like on a special program. And so he and I went shopping, and he said, I'm going to buy you everything that I would buy my wife if she was going to have to meet me in Iraq.
Camouflage and a canteen.
No, the whole garb. I mean, everything.
The whole thing.
Everything.
Respectfully, what?
So meanwhile, I could probably take up the whole podcast with this, but I had to have, for liability, a little bit of military training. So the next morning, I was called up to the 3rd floor of News Corps, and there were 2 gigantic men shouting, a lot of people are going to die today, but you don't have to, at these like renegade journalists from the New York Post. So I walk in my suit.
Wait, you're in New York at this point?
Yes,
Okay.
on 6th Avenue, in one of the big News Corps boardrooms, and we have to do chemical suit engineering training. I'm being dragged across the floor by these men who were the 2 men in a team that rescued the Achille Lauro.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
I was thrown about basically and dragging.
Tossed around by handsome men.
Yes.
Not unusual.
And then I was given like an emergency satellite phone plan. So when I took my mostly men into Kuwait, Jordan, and Iraq, if worst
This
case
is your
scenario,
journalist team that you were going to take with you to cover the war.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Worst case scenario, I could call and get overhead firepower or like a
Right.
secret. Anyway, so
So how long were you there? They get you there and...
yeah, so we landed in Kuwait and in January, February. And I believe the invasion took part in March. I was one of the first people in the world to know the U.S. was invading. I was on the Kuwaiti border. And so my job was to get about 200 men embedded into their tanks. And I did that.
To cover firsthand, sort of, yeah.
So it's one of the first full video access coverage plans in the war.
Right.
So
So men, you mean journalists?
So journalists,
But it's play by play.
But
It's
it's
like you're
also-
being on the front line with
so
Right,
it's
right.
journalists,
because war
engineers.
wasn't covered like that for
No.
years.
This was
It's
a
an
new thing,
unusual
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so it was journalists, engineers, all the crews that we need to support
people.
all of
Sure.
those teams. And we had different teams arrive at my doorstep from different states because they were
Wow.
servicing their own stations. Anyway, so I was there for about over 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
I ended my time in Iraq.
Did you have to use any gunpowder at all?
I was not allowed because I'm a journalist.
I know that, but sometimes you get into situations. You never saw friendly fire, basically.
I was shot at.
Ah.
I had cruise missiles overhead.
Wow. Scary. It was scary, right?
I wasn't scared. When there's a real crisis, I'm very calm. I think it's
You're
my
always calm,
childhood.
Camilla, really,
Yeah.
for the most part. So wait, how does this translate into being
Okay,
such a beautiful
yeah,
artist? That's
exactly.
what I'm really interested in.
Me
The
too.
crazy
I know, I
Iraq
feel
war.
like-
I mean, it must have been like you came back with PTSD and it was a traumatic experience that you wanted to go into something that was creating beauty.
I think
right?
you compartmentalized that and created
No,
beauty from
I didn't
it. No?
compartmentalize.
Okay, good.
What I decided in 2013, so quite a few years later, was that I had fully understood the pain, suffering, joy, and everything between of humanity.
Mhm.
And that I was going to choose to become the painter, the other part of my life that I always wanted, because I had the richness of experience to express that.
Well, and I think really
That's
most artists need to go through some kind of personal
Tragedy
suffering
or suffering
to
yes.
really be able to get at their art.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Camilla's saying that you have to do that in order to. You
Yeah.
have to have a whole range of experiences in order to present it in your art. Basically,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Absolutely. People sit in front of my paintings or stand and they often cry. And what I try to do in my work that I focus on idyllic memory is I take them into my idyllic memories. And I hope that they then have their own. And I do feel that there is an energy transfer from the canvas, which many other, Rothko felt this way.
No, quite, yes.
Many great artists have used color and form to create that energetic transfer.
Van Gogh,
Yeah.
the best of that.
And after seeing everything I've seen in the world, I wanted to spend the next 40 years offering healing, enlightenment, perspective through my work.
It's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
I love how you say that. Really, I mean, I stand in front of your paintings, and what I'm drawn to and often overcome by is the beautiful colors. The colors are so transformative, don't you think, Guy?
Well,
I love them.
I own 4 pieces of Camilla's works, and I'm a supporter of her from the beginning.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and I'm drawn to the colors too. I love color
Me
generally.
too.
If you come to
Yes.
my house, it's all about what's on the walls. It's all colorful.
Correct.
And Camilla's work
A part of
speaks
that.
to that for me.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, and it's really part of Palm Beach too. I mean, it's a rare thing. You wouldn't necessarily see very bright colors and saturated colors on walls in New York. You just don't in a normal instance. But down here, it's de rigueur. It's what belongs. And Camilla speaks to this community through her art, and I think that's really important.
Right. I think the thing that is important to share with people, Camilla, is that this transformative, and what we're trying to do in these podcasts, almost every week, is the transformative nature of Palm Beach and what it's going through. And I think there's this very exciting young artist, which you touched upon a little bit, that this is kind of like you went down South Dixie, which is in West Palm Beach, and you felt like this is your Chelsea. This is your 60s moment. So where do you think this is all going here, the art world?
There are a lot of exciting art movements led by some of our great collectors and philanthropists like Beth Rudin DeWoody. Many of you might be familiar with The Bunker, and I don't know whether they're doing tours at the moment, but
The Bunker is Beth's
Yes.
basically her collection, her rotating collection, and it's in West Palm Beach.
I didn't, and that's open to the public.
I think it's open by request.
By
Yes,
request.
by appointment.
Okay,
By
really.
appointment.
we're going to check that out and put that up on our Instagrams and social platforms so that you guys can find that out.
And actually, Sarah Gavlak, Beth Rudin-DeWoody, and quite a few other leading women in the arts in Palm Beach have started a lot of programs and exhibits that you're going to see the week directly after Art Basel Miami.
Great.
And they've also sponsored studio residencies in West Palm Beach at Rosemary Square. So
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. So those sort of things are really happening, everywhere. They are leading ladies. There's another exciting project that I'm involved with, which is the Salvation Army is celebrating its centennial year
Here.
in Palm Beach.
Wow.
And there will be an artist competition for a centennial card set. And Wendy Fritz.
The application's just started.
Yeah, the application just started, and we can put that information. I'll share that with you for the website.
Okay, great.
And so we are encouraging artists all over Palm Beach to enter.
And what do you have to do with that, Camilla?
So the chair of the initial competition is art consultant Wendy Fritz, another wonderful Palm Beacher. And she asked me if I would chair an event that will be held at the Norton Museum of Art. It will be part of the centennial celebration, and it's still very much in the works, but
So exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
When is that going to be?
March the 2nd, 2022.
Excellent.
That's
excellent.
that's really fantastic.
So I want to back up just
Yes.
a moment.
Yeah.
Camilla, let's talk about a little bit what you and I did during the pandemic, because I think it's really important.
Yes.
yeah,
A
I was
lot of
just
people-
gonna ask you guys about that.
I was
about
only
this
giggling
great
'cause-
foundation that you've started.
Right.
Sorry, I was laughing because you gave me that naughty look, and I thought we were going to talk about how we endlessly drove around the island.
Well, that's a different story.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the art altruist.
Okay. Explain the art altruist
Sure.
and how that came to be, actually.
Yeah.
What is it?
So the art altruist was a foundation I started and invited Guy to take part and use his muscle to support us. Guy is an amazing collector of Hunt Sloanham and many other great artists, and really understands the art and design world, and is our treasurer.
Yes.
Among many other, posts.
I think I also had to deliver artwork.
You should.
I did all kinds of things.
We all did. So
He's a delivery boy.
That's right.
It's good.
So when-
I'm the one with the big car.
when the pandemic started, all of the galleries shut and all of our exhibits were canceled.
Yes.
Right.
And so I realized, knowing certain artists in the community, also all of the craft and art fairs closed, that some people were going to be very deep in financial crisis. And
Artists.
these artists typically don't have health care. There's a lot of things that artists don't always do.
They're on the
Right.
fringe in their housing world.
Yes,
right.
It's just not good.
Yes.
So I called Guy and said, we have to do something. So we started to design this concept, supporting artists from crisis to recovery. That day, I also called our friend Kate Waterhouse, an amazing art and advisor, jewels expert, and she
Appraiser. She's an appraiser too.
and
And Palm Beacher.
yes,
of course.
And I said, could we have a charity auction at Hyman Auctions? I mean, everything is closing and I'm asking for the world. And she's like, well, I've just gone independent actually today. But yes, let's do it. I think they'll do it. So bless her.
We weren't doing anything else.
No.
so-
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, and we called, thanks to Kate Kelly Lucchini, who is an appraiser, another art expert, dealing with major collections in town and beyond. And so then I said, we need someone who works in the community. And so I said, I'd like to reach out to Rolando Chang Barrero. We've met several times, and he has a grassroots organization that puts art supplies in public schools and so on. Here's the beauty of what happened at the Art Altruist. Hyman Auctions agreed to hold the auction. Guy and I began and reached out to all our art dealers we know to ask for people to put up art,
Donations.
to donate their art, some of it major art, that could go in the charity auction, which was staged as a regular auction at Heinemann, a digital auction. And the most beautiful thing was that people said, well, we can't get to our collections, but we have art on our walls.
Wow.
Yes, I gave one.
Incredible.
So every day, those of us who felt we could travel and pick up something in the lobby would pick up a Renoir, a Hunt Sloanum.
Incredible. What in a community we have. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And we put our best foot forward and we did it. And it was kind of a ragtag group of people that, I mean, I've never done that before. I've done all kind of art auctions for schools in New York and everything to raise money, but I never did it with the kind of restrictions we had during the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, where we were, completely swathed in stuff and couldn't really see anything.
We couldn't go out, couldn't do anything.
We couldn't do the normal things. We couldn't bring the auction pieces to the auction house. The auction house was closed.
Right. We had to send
Right.
digital.
So
Right.
this is where my background in being a senior producer in Iraq came into play, because I knew that there was a way.
There's always a way.
That's exactly right.
I put teams, all over a foreign country, got them in and out alive. We can stage an art auction and help our artists in our community. So we still have over $15,000 to distribute to artists in crisis.
So how do artists that are in crisis get to us
right
at the Art Altruist and try to get funding?
Sure. So right now, the best way is to email us actually at studio@CamilaWebster.com. There is an Art Altruist application on the artaltruist.com. But if you reach out to me, I'm going to be able to really quickly put you in the lineup and in the system.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
So-
which is really great to have that. So Camilla, you have your own studio in West Palm Beach. It's a building that's filled with other young artists,
Absolutely,
right?
and it's fabulous.
It is fabulous.
It's very kind of New York in the 60s
It is,
feeling,
yes.
where it's a community. It's a commune, actually.
It's
when you think about it, with no doors,
right?
on a lot of them.
Yeah, no, it's like the old warehouses in Brooklyn where
Exactly.
artists used to live. Yeah. And you guys go there. Everybody's working, and how do you draw the public to that building?
So actually, we're about to celebrate our 30th anniversary of Studio 1608, which is at 1608 South Dixie Highway. The public will be invited to a show called Once Upon a Time, which I thought was aptly named because, of course, there's been 30 years of very significant artists coming through that space. And, it's great because all of us have very different disciplines in our work, very different practices,
and different, basically different genres. Really.
Correct. Yes. So it really works very nicely, and there's sort of something for
everybody.
For everyone, there's equestrian painter Weatherly Stroh. It's absolutely wonderful person. Charles Bain's work is very progressive. He's also one of the leading muralists in Palm Beach and South Florida. So
his work is really fascinating.
Yep.
He really has this interesting take on life and death.
Yes.
Mostly death.
No, it's really fascinating. I think how he explores the spirituality of that in painting. It's interesting.
I think to him they're interconnected.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
And then we have Clemente, who's exploring many different themes between man and woman, the Bible, polo.
It's so exciting. I mean, it's great that all of these experts and artisans and people that are pursuing that kind of craft are here.
That's what's part
I
of
love that.
what Palm Beach is now,
right,
and what it's becoming. Again, it's drawing in a new group of people, and it's like a snowball. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Don't you see that, Camilla, in the last 3 years?
So one of the important things, like my work, my biggest collectors are, beyond Palm Beach, are New York, LA, London, Aspen. So so this is where you see the shift. So creativity is coming out of Palm Beach, just like it is with the Palm Beach Symphony. We're going nationally, globally. So we have this creative space in Palm Beach now, these leading cultural centers, and we're being invited, to London to have an exhibit. So that I think that's for Palm Beach. That's where you're seeing a big shift.
That's
in the
huge.
Cultural.
But
Yeah,
don't you
no,
think
that's so huge and exciting.
I agree. But don't you think generally Palm Beach is under a microscope all the time? The world looks at us and thinks that we're just it.
Well, you
and
also
everyone wants to be here.
I think the taxes, a lot of things that are driving
Right, of
people
course.
here. But Camilla, you mentioned that triangle,
Mhm.
New York, Aspen, Palm Beach. So it's a very rarefied life that everybody's a part of. But when you find people like I'm hoping to bring on this show that are hardworking and philanthropically driven and involved in their passion and their crafts in a place that's like this,
Right.
it shows the world it can be done, right? It really can be done. So as an author and as a businesswoman and an artist, where are you taking everything?
Well, I've had a very exciting year, an unusual past year in the pandemic. I had a museum show at the Coral Springs Museum of Art, which is just about an hour between Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned into a book. And that book became the #1 bestseller in Palm Beach of all books in the week of March, which was amazing.
Very
The
exciting.
month of last March.
Yes, last March.
And this
Amazing.
book is available where, Camilla?
On Amazon. You
Okay,
can go
good.
Camilla Webster. You can also buy it at the Palm Beach bookstore. of
Good.
course.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
On Royal Ponciano Way. And one of the challenges, of course, last year was that everything was closed, and I had a collection of paintings for the museum show, and I didn't know where they would be sold.
Coral Springs, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things that happened was the paintings found their way to the right homes. So anywhere outdoors I could exhibit a painting, I would. And the first painting that sold to the head of special events of Christie's North America. I wasn't there. I couldn't have planned on that. So it's been a banner year. We've sold over 32 paintings from the collection.
So
That's
exciting. We're
amazing.
so happy for you. And now you are also designing a home collection. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So a lot of wonderful designers like Guy kept saying, well, I wish that was a fabric. I wish that, and I looked into the history of our artists from Frida Kahlo to Chagall to Picasso. And I thought, well, they designed their entire world. So in Hans Slonim, so it was like, why not?
Right,
And
right.
I've had such fun. We put together
Yeah,
the
hold
studio.
those up so that everybody can see that. Yeah,
So
beautiful.
I did this original painting here, Love from Palm Beach. And actually, I put the original up for auction with Discover the Palm Beaches to aid families and children. But I made a series of prints, which are available at the studio. And we've made them to all sorts of colors. They are going to be 40 by 30.
So exciting.
So this is the same, the one that I'm holding is the same as that one.
Yes. So
Just
they're going to come in
colorized
lots of
differently.
different colorized.
they're
Yeah.
all-
Oh, I
I
see.
almost
Very
feel like
cool.
I should call this the Janie Chase, because when I
Yeah, that's Jenny Chase.
when I feel like they need
That would
to
look
be
very good in my bedroom. I'm just saying.
exactly renamed after Palm Beachers.
So they're all the same. They're just you recolorize them into a giclée,
Which
which
is-
is
Yes.
a print.
Yes.
Print
Which
to
is so
canvas.
exciting. And then this is going to go into tabletop and
Yes.
And-
so we're going to do
Placemats.
placemats.
Napkins.
But first, what we have now are these beautiful coasters.
So they are.
we use ours all the time.
Which,
I love them.
Thank you. Which
They make me happy. They're happy.
They're fabulous.
you guys got the testers. In fact, that is a tester with me signing the back like that. So
I'm so happy.
Now
I
they
love
I need
having
more.
them.
I need a set of
proper-
6. I got one. Hello. What am I going to do with one coaster, Camilla?
well, you can just call the studio.
That's right. Hello.
Yeah, we have a lot of exciting things launching. Actually, we have 3 of these prints, 10 pillows, and some other items launching at Pineapples and Palms in Jupiter.
Ooh.
And you are shortly going to see these at retail in Palm Beach. We'll let you know where.
Exciting.
Well, and I love that. And I want to end on this note, which is that, so many people in life think that you can only be one thing,
right.
and they pigeonhole you. Oh no, you're a writer. Oh no, you're a businessman. Oh no, you're a decorator. You absolutely support my claim that life is a long time. There are many chapters, and there are many people have lots of passions. And when
people have facets to them.
Right, exactly. And I love the fact that you've done so much of what you've done, and that when you look back on all the things that you've done, they've all kind of built on each other. You couldn't have planned it.
No, that's true.
Couldn't have planned it.
I mean,
No.
it's been an exciting journey, and you're so young that we know that you're going to be around a long time.
Thank God.
So thank God, supplying us with lots of beauty. So
Yeah.
we're so excited for you, Camilla.
Thank you.
Yay.
And
Thank
you really
for
have
having
brought
me.
so much happiness and I think joy to this community, and your support of women and philanthropy makes you really one of the leaders in our community. So I'm really happy to have had you on Perfectly Palm Beach. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Camilla.
Thank you so much.